Remain seated, please. Permanecer sentados, por favor.
To all who come to this happy place, welcome.
Our largest single-theme land expansion ever.
Now we want you to share with us our latest and greatest dream.
Matterhorn Matt presents Matterhorn Mondays.
Welcome, everybody, to episode 127 of Matterhorn Mondays, coming to you live from the Outpost. I'm your host, Matterhorn Matt.
And I'm your host, Alex the Historian.
And we got a great episode for you guys. A lot of amazing, or I guess not amazing, a lot of interesting topics that we're excited to get into. Jeremy was supposed to be here for the episode. He messaged us saying he won't be able to make it in time, so he may or may not pop up halfway throughout the episode. Maybe he'll come in 5 minutes from now. We'll see. If not, then it'll just be Alex and I, just like old times, you guys. But yeah, you guys know the drill. Links are in the description for all of our social media, all that kind of stuff. Alex's channel will be down in the description. And it's come to my attention that last episode I neglected, or I guess I forgot, to read off the birthdays that we had from last week. I forgot.
No,
I'm pretty sure I forgot
did.
to read off the birthdays last week.
No, there was like one birthday.
I'm pretty sure I forgot to read off. Well, either way, I'll read off last week's birthdays as well as this week. So last week on Monday the 9th, Jared at JRAD Plays. His birthday. Happy birthday to Jared. Wednesday the 11th. I'm very sorry. This is a very hard to pronounce name. Teresita, if I'm pronouncing that right. Happy birthday on Wednesday the 11th. Thursday the 12th, Evan's birthday. Happy birthday to Evan. And Friday the 13th. Spooky day, you guys. Happy birthday to Mr. Alex Rivera. And this week, we have 3 birthdays, you guys. Aaron. That's how it's spelled. A-Aaron. Aaron, probably. Happy birthday to Mr. Aaron on tomorrow, Monday the 16th, as well as Charlie on the 16th. And Thursday, this upcoming Thursday, the 19th, Melanie Garcia. Happy birthday to Melanie. Yeah, so I'm pretty sure I forgot to read off the birthdays from last week. I could just be pooping my pants right now, you guys, because it happens often. But if you guys would like to submit your birthday, go ahead and click the Google Doc down in the description below. You guys know the drill. Fill it out, submit it. We'll add it to our calendar. And yeah, if you guys would like to voice your opinion on any of the topics we have at hand, go ahead and ring 575-386-5814. We will be listening to the voicemails live throughout the episode. You can also text. I should probably just stop saying that we accept texts, but we do, but we prefer voicemails. But anyways, it's time, before we get into our main topics today, it's time for everybody's favorite segment, Matt Snaps.
A whole wide world of knowledge waits underneath the cap. It's once again time this week for Matterhorn Matt Snaps.
It's Matt Snaps, you guys, and this week we're going classic, you guys. Kiwi strawberry. I need the sugar. And kiwi strawberry, I think, has the most sugar out of all of the Snapple that we have, or all of the Snapple that's available here. So let's go ahead and pop this open. And that was kind of a lame one. Let's see. Elephants are the only mammals that can't jump. They're too fat. They can't bend their knees and plump, jump up. Anyways. What a great, fun fact, and I'll pour this in. And yeah, like I said, we do have a lot of great topics, a very interesting Alex in the Parks to get into. But before we get into any of that, it's time for everybody's second favorite segment, News from the Peak.
We now present to you News from the Peak.
The poop. All right. For our first bit of News from the Peak. Guys, I should have probably saved this one for the last bit of News from the Peak, but that's okay. Disney Plus is streaming Frozen 2 3 months early. I guess it's supposed to come out on Disney Plus 3 months from now, but Disney decided to bring it back release it this weekend. So Disney Plus aims to surprise families this Sunday with, quote, some fun and joy during this challenging period, unquote, referring to the global pandemic of the COVID-19 coronavirus, which we'll be getting into extensively later on in the episode with our other topics that we have. Which on Friday was declared a national emergency. Frozen 2, the highest earning animated film of all time. That's crazy, with $1.4 billion in global box office grosses. Guys, I haven't seen Frozen 2. I haven't seen Frozen 1 in a long while. I guess this is a good opportunity for me to stay updated on Disney's newest movie. But Alex, what are your thoughts on Disney Plus releasing Frozen 2 early?
You know, this is one of those times where I think like what Disney did is actually really nice because, well, I mean, it's kind of nice, kind of not nice. I mean, if you think about it, so they say that they're doing it because, you know, people are going to be stuck at home a lot more now. And so they want to give people like something to make them happy. And Frozen was really popular, so it'll make them happy. The other hand, you know, is that Frozen 2 is like super popular. And if ever there was a time to bank off of Disney Plus and Frozen 2, it would be right now. But just because something benefits them financially doesn't necessarily make it bad. So I think this is a good thing. And actually, I might end up watching it too. And I don't even like Frozen.
Alex has gone on record in the past saying that. But yeah, I have not seen Frozen 2. I haven't seen the first one in a very long time. I guess, like I said, this would be a good opportunity to watch both of them. But for our second bit of news from the peak here, Disney, guys, if you notice a common theme throughout this episode, I don't know where I was going with that. What I should have said is there is a common theme throughout this episode, and you'll probably notice it. Disney is shutting down production of all live-action projects in the works due to the coronavirus outbreak that has been happening. According to The Hollywood Reporter, among those films are Disney's live-action adaptation of The Little Mermaid, which was set to start production next week, Shang-Chi and The Legend of the Ten Rings, Home Alone, The Last Duel, and Nightmare Alley. I've never heard of like 3 of those, but Peter Pan and Wendy and Shrunk are both in pre-production but are also being shut down as well. I think Shrunk is like the sequel or like the new Honey, I Shrunk the Audience cinematic universe movie, but there's a quote here. Quote, while there have been no confirmed cases of COVID-19 on our productions, after considering the current environment and the best interests of our cast and crew, we have made the decision to pause production on some of our live-action films for a short time, and we will continue to assess the situation and restart as soon as feasible. So, yeah, like I said, there is a common theme throughout almost all of the topics we're going to be discussing today. Alex, what are your thoughts on Disney shutting down production of all of their live-action projects in the works?
Well, I heard it was only some, and it was the really big projects. So I don't know about that article, but I heard it was some, and it was the big projects. Okay. And as for that, I mean, that's kind of like really sad, but it makes sense because, you know, if you're going to try to, you know, prevent a bunch of people from getting sick, then yeah, it makes sense not to have a whole big cast and crew together for a giant production.
Yeah, and I don't know. This is probably bad to say, but a lot of these are like the crappy reboots and like live action remakes that we've all been talking about in the past. Nobody likes, I mean, I guess obviously people like them because they make a lot of money, but I feel like getting these big, I don't know, it feels weird to say that I'm glad they're getting postponed for now, just because I don't want any more of these live action remakes to be in the theaters just because of how gross they are.
Well, you know, what's interesting is this whole coronavirus thing might change the future of what Disney movies are.
Sure, yeah.
You know, so who knows? I mean, I'm hoping like, you know, maybe things change for the better in the sense that instead of a bunch of remakes, now people are going to demand, something different, something new, something that, I don't know, maybe. I don't know why it would, but I'm just saying it'd be nice. Because, yeah.
We shall see. But for our final bit of news from the peak here, the only topic not coronavirus related. Bob Iger confirms that Song of the South will... What was so funny, Alex?
Just the fact that it's the only topic not coronavirus related on this whole podcast.
It's true, though. Bob Iger confirms that Song of the South will not be added to Disney Plus, even with a disclaimer. I believe he said on Wednesday, I think it was during a shareholders meeting, that the 1946 film will not be appearing on Disney Plus, even with a, quote, outdated cultural depictions disclaimer. Like we've seen, there's been a lot of those, actually. There's on like these the older animated films with Dumbo, I think, as well as Peter Pan. This is the only ones that I've actually watched on Disney Plus that I know have them, but I'm sure there's a lot more that have that disclaimer. But Alex, I mean, we all knew this was going to happen. We knew this would never be put on Disney Plus. We talked about this a while ago, but this is just confirmation from. I guess I was going to say the big man up top, but he's not the big man up top anymore. He's not. Okay,
he's
but
the little man up top.
He's the little man up top. But Alex, what are your thoughts on Bob Iger confirming that Song of the South will not be added to Disney Plus?
Again, it doesn't come as a surprise. I think we all knew this was, it was not going to show up. Although, Whoopi Goldberg insisted that they do, that they show it with a disclaimer. But it's hard to say because it's one of those things where the cultural depictions in this movie are outdated, and certainly today, in today's terms, and even in the terms from the 50s and 60s, after the movie came out, the depictions of the characters and their culture is very much negatively seen, negatively received by people. But I do have to reiterate, because I always do this whenever we talk about Song of the South. The movie is based on the books by an author who wanted to document stories passed down by the emancipated slaves. They used to tell stories to their kids and stuff, and back then it was like campfire stories to help teach lessons to people. And this one author, I forget his name off the top of my head, but he really loved those stories and he thought they were important. And so he documented them down into books and created a new character called Uncle Remus, who is the teller of these stories. And that's, but the stories really did begin with Brer Fox, Brer Bear, and Brer Rabbit. Anyway, point is, Walt Disney grew up on these stories. He loved them, and he thought that America would like them too, because it's important to learn certain things, such as don't run away from your problems and stuff like that, which is what Brer Fox does. But anyway, because of the way the characters were depicted, not out of hate, but just out of the style of the books, it's seen today as, not pleasant. Some people might even call it racist. But it's important to say that there's a difference between racism and racial insensitivity. Racism is created for hate, and racial insensitivity is created out of ignorance. So... yeah.
Wow, very well said, Mr. Alex. I've seen Song of the South. I have to say, not one of my favorite movies. It's pretty boring. I will give it that. So, I mean, I'm not all too mad that it's not going to be on Disney Plus, just because it is like a pretty boring movie. But then again, there is the fact, Disney, someone said in chat, scrubbing history. Bunch of quotes or air quotes around that because, but anyways, we all knew this was not going to be coming to Disney Plus, but this is just confirmation from the little man up top. And on that note, that wraps up this week's not Alex in the Parks. That wraps up this week's news from the peak, and we do actually have Alex in the Parks for this episode. So before we get into that, Alex, why don't you go ahead and give a brief little rundown? Or actually, before I forget, I almost forgot. Okay, now before we get into Alex in the Parks, Alex, why don't you give a brief little rundown of what people can expect to see from this week's segment here? Because you even said a few weeks ago that you weren't going to be going to Disneyland, but you changed your mind in light of the recent announcements, which we'll be getting to after Alex in the Parks. Alex, why don't you give a brief rundown here?
Well, you just gave the rundown for me, so.
Oh, okay. Well,
but anyway, yes. So I have been avoiding Disneyland for the past couple weeks, just because I don't want to get sick, and frankly, I don't. If I had the chance to go, oh, you know what? Maybe I should avoid like a flu that's going around at Disneyland. I would too. So I just don't like being sick. That's just all. But I've been avoiding it for that reason, and I had plenty of stuff to post on my channel, so I didn't need to go back. But after I found out that Disneyland was closing for at least 2 weeks, I told myself, I told myself, I have to go back. I have to see the park. I have to take as much video as I can of everything so I can create more content while it's closed. And so, I went there, and it was a rainy, drizzly, somewhat bittersweet day. And so this is what happened.
All right, here we go. This is Alex. This week's episode of Alex in the Parks.
Good morning, everyone. It is March 13th, a Friday. Disneyland has just opened for the day, but will likely not open tomorrow morning because it is closing for the rest of the month in an effort to contain the coronavirus. And there's a likely chance that if the virus continues to worsen, it may have to extend its closure date. Now, this is the first time in Disneyland history that the park has been closed for a 2-week scheduled closure. The very first time. So this is very different. And I'm here today to just kind of walk around the park and enjoy it while I can. It occurred to me while I was walking through the park that the closure of Disneyland would definitely be one of Walt's worst nightmares. He always worried about an empty park. Now, back in Walt's day, Disneyland wasn't open 7 days a week, but it was open every week of the year. And having it closed for 2 weeks and possibly more definitely would have been his worst nightmare. Now, I'm gonna go get a breakfast chimichanga. Now we're out here in front of the Haunted Mansion. Some of the tarps have been taken down due to the rain. But I think what we're looking at here is they're doing some repaint work. They've removed some of the windows, which is interesting. And I'm babbling. But also I noticed that they completely removed the gates that are out front. That is a like a plywood wall instead of the actual gate. And so we just got off at New Orleans Square, and there's a whole lot of cast members gathered out here, like everywhere. It's really weird. I don't know what they're doing here. So after we stood here for a minute, I suddenly recalled why all the cast members are here. When I worked at Blue Bayou a long time ago, back in 2015, 2016, we had a problem in New Orleans Square. Our fire alarms always went off. Just poor ventilation in the kitchen sometimes, that kind of thing. And the fire alarms would go off, and we always had to evacuate here. This was our cast member evacuation point. The guests would have to be evacuated out to the front of the of New Orleans Square if they were dining at the restaurants and stuff. So that's probably what happened. See, they're all going back in the building now. So so that's usually what happens. This happens quite frequently. Once every like 6 months or so, the fire alarms will just go off, and then Disneyland Fire Department goes in, clears all the buildings, makes sure everything's okay, turns off the fire alarms, and then all the cast members get to go back in. So everything's fine. We were a little confused at first, and to be honest, it's been so long since that happened to me. I forgot that happens. People are starting to leave the park, and so some rides, like It's a Small World, for instance, have almost no wait. I mean, we're just walking right on. So Chris and I decided we're just going to take advantage of the low lines and get on this classic attraction. After all, when you think of Disneyland, quite often the It's a Small World song comes into your mind. So there's Goofy giving hugs and everyone wandering around Toontown just having fun. Mickey's house is under refurbishment for repainting. And I'm going to go up to the top of Donald's boat to see if I can get a good view of construction. So in the middle of the screen is a big crane. That's there to obviously lift really heavy things into place. But there's no steel or scaffolding or anything that I see from this vantage point. Nothing at all. But the fact that the crane is there is a good thing. Maybe perhaps in the future we'll see the new ride come into construction. So here's a little update on the stairwell over by the exit of Space Mountain. As you can see, it got its railing, and yeah, looks really neat. Looks just like the rest of the upper level of Space Mountain. And now I kind of want to see around the other side, because I do believe that they still have a tarp. Yeah, a tarp and a construction wall. So, and likely this stairwell will have a gate on it that is locked. So, or like locked from one side. So if you're going down the stairs, you can open the gate, but when you're trying to go up, it'll just be locked. And there it goes, Sleeping Beauty Castle. So sad. I don't want to leave, you know? I want to stay here. Farewell, Castle. Good morning, everyone. It is March 13th.
Alrighty. So, God, watching all this really makes me miss Disneyland, man. I'm sure, I think I told you guys in the previous episode, I was trying to go to the parks for my birthday, April 23rd, and, you know, I was excited. I don't know if the park's going to be open by then. If, like Alex said in the video, if the virus gets worse, then the closure could extend outside of March into April, but I don't know. We'll see. But, yeah, that has been Alex in the parks. Alex? Anything you would like to say here?
Yeah, first of all, could you turn down the volume on the video because it's still going?
Got it. Yes, sir.
Got it. Anywho, so yeah, so it was a really weird day, and I'm not sure how much you want me to talk about until we get to the next thing, like, because I could talk about my whole experience for the day, but I don't know if you have plans for the
well, we are going to be talking about I guess I should just run down our first main topic: Disney College program shutting down. Second main topic: Disneyland and Walt Disney World resorts closing. So if you feel like you want to talk about it now, or you can go ahead, but if you want to save it for the main topics, then you can save it if you want.
Probably should save it for the main topic because it's, you know, there's a lot to talk about, and it just kind of fits in with that second topic. So
okay. Alrighty, well, that has been Alex in the parks. I miss Disneyland, you guys. I'll just say it. But anyways, moving on. Our first main topic of the day: Disney College program shutting down due to coronavirus. You guys, this is I guess I should preface this by saying this is a very interesting time that we're going through right now, because I can't recall any other time in like Disney history where something like this has impacted the company so much, I guess. Whereas we see all these closures, all the parks are closed, college program is shutting down because of this virus, but very interesting. Disney will be ending all Disney College programs and sending participants home due to the coronavirus. coronavirus. Participants must be out of the housing complexes by March 18th, you guys. Just a few days. I think Wednesday of this week. Programs included are the Disney College Program, Disney Culinary Program, Disney Cultural Exchange Program, and the Disney Academic Exchange Program. And all Disney College Program cast members will be paid through the end of March. That's a good upside to all this, which and we'll be touching on this later again in the next topic. But Alex, what are your thoughts here on the Disney College Program shutting down due to this darn old coronavirus?
It's really it's sad in the sense that, like, the college program kids, they're very much unsure of what's going to happen, and great time to yawn. Anyway, they're really like worried about like what's going to happen, and then like they don't really have that much money, Disney sends them to the university, they pay their for their parts of their housing and then stuff like that. It's like they don't have very much money. And so when Disney decided that they're shutting down the college program, and then the kids have to go back from whence they came, it was very much a confusing time. And even right now, I'm not even fully sure how all of them are handling it. And I think they have even till tomorrow, I think, which is Monday, to completely get out of there. And
Wednesday the 18th, I think.
Is it? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Is it Wednesday? Okay. So yeah, so it's just, it's just really crazy times right now. But also better to be safe than sorry.
Of course.
The coronavirus can affect someone with, a compromised immune system, or even, simple things like breathing issues such as asthma, or, or even if you have like cardiovascular issues, those things can be affected by the coronavirus. So that puts a huge amount of people into that part of, I guess, susceptibility. But anyway, yeah, it's just really strange. And it's a good thing that Disney is still going to pay them for the next 2 weeks. And I don't know if anybody's heard, but Disney is also going to be passing every single one of them.
Whoa,
so,
wow, okay. Very cool.
Yeah. So I read the little newsletter that Disney sent to all the college program kids, and it says that all of them are officially being passed. They are already like, I don't know. I don't know any other word for it. They're passed. They've been passed with an A. You know?
Yeah.
And so basically, if any of them, after all this mess finishes, wants to go back and work at the parks, they have that opportunity. So that's a really good thing too. And that itself is important too, because if these kids try to get a job outside of Disney, and these jobs look at how they did in college, and they see the college program, they want to go, how did you do? It kind of looks bad to say like, oh, I didn't get to finish college program, and so therefore I didn't pass. So that's why Disney is passing all of them. So that is really cool.
Yeah, T-Will said in chat, I'm a Fall Advantage college program, and I got my housing registration today. My program starts in June, so my program could go without many hitches, knock on wood. So, yeah, according to T-Will, people who are starting in June have gotten their housing registration. So hopefully in the future, that all goes well. I guess we'll get into more of the virus itself in our next topic. Because our next topic is the big one, you guys. I don't really think I have much else to say about the college program shutting down. Now, it's good. I do agree with Alex. It's good that they're paying their cast members through the end of the month, and that they're passing them as well. Yeah, I guess just a shout out to all you college program members who have to leave so suddenly. It's a very interesting time in Disney history. And I'm sure we'll look back on this in a few years. And
Tony Mack in the comments asked, does every potential cast member have to complete these programs? No. You can just be hired right off the street. This is just for kids who are going to college and are in a particular they're going to college for something in particular, like let's say mechanical engineering, or maybe they're in college for business or for entertainment, that kind of thing. So some colleges offer the Disney College program, which gives them, first of all, work experience at a Disney theme park. And you can even be put, well, some college program kids can even be put in the area of their interest. So again, if they're trying to be like, if they're trying to learn like, mechanical stuff, they might be able to work for maintenance if they, but most of them end up working either for rides, shops, and restaurants. That's the majority of where they all go.
Tony said like an internship. It's kind of like an internship.
Really,
kind of.
Though. It's, I guess, but an internship is like where at the end of your internship, they decide whether or not to keep you as an employee. That doesn't necessarily happen for college program. At the end of college program, you have to apply to become a cast member. And generally, a lot of them can stay cast members. But usually the college program, once it finishes, you go back to your college and that's it. It's just a job. It's just a job experience thing. So yeah. But if you, at the end of your college program thingy, if you want to apply to be a cast member and you do become a cast member, you can stay in your work location and you will keep the seniority you accrued during your college program, which I think is about 9 months, maybe less. I don't remember anymore, but you get to keep your accrued seniority. But that's the funny thing. So like you get like 3 years of seniority right off the bat, which gives you all these shifts over regular cast members who've been there for 3 years every single day trying to accrue that seniority, and you get more than them, so they automatically dislike you for that. But once you become an official cast member, you go back down to however many months you've been there as seniority, and you get to keep that. So that's good. I think that's all I have to say about.
Yeah, I mean, we'll be getting into this in our second topic, so I guess it's fair to just move on. Which, you guys, our second topic of the day. This is the big one, you guys. Disneyland, Walt Disney World, Disneyland Paris, and the cruise line all have been closed due to the coronavirus fears. And this is the first time I think this can be said. Every single Disney resort in the world is closed at the moment. At the moment being on Monday when this video comes out. Every single Disney park. Think about that. Anaheim, Florida, Hong Kong, Shanghai, Paris. They're all closed, you guys, due to this nasty coronavirus outbreak. Disneyland Resort has already closed on March 14th and will remain closed through the end of March, and Disney will be paying their cast members, actually, for the remainder of March as well, which big applause to Disney for doing that. Walt Disney World and Disneyland Paris will be closing on March, or has already been closed on March 15th. And let's go ahead and read off this statement here from Disneyland Resort. Quote, "While there have been no reported cases of COVID-19 at Disneyland Resort, after carefully reviewing the guidelines of the Governor of California's executive order, and in the best interest of our guests and employees, we are proceeding with the closure of Disneyland Park and Disney California Adventure Park, beginning the morning of March 15th through the end of the month. The hotels at the Disneyland Resort will remain open until Monday, March 16th, to give guests the availability to make necessary travel arrangements, and Downtown Disney will remain open for the remainder of the month as well. We will monitor the ongoing situation and follow up the advice and guidance of federal and state officials and health agencies. Disney will continue to pay cast members during this time, like I mentioned before." End quote. Alex, like I said, this is a very interesting time in the Disney company history, and I'm sure we're going to be looking back on this specific, few months. In a few months, we'll be looking back at this as like this pinpoint, I'm sure, to many big changes that might be happening to the company. But Alex, what are your thoughts on every Disneyland resort closing as well, but every single Disney park in the world being closed due to this coronavirus outbreak?
It's insanity. I mean, if you had asked me, a couple weeks ago, if we would ever see all Disney resorts at once closed at the same exact time, I would have said no. It's impossible because because we're separated by continents. Something has to give, But and I would have thought that when it comes to a virus breaking out, which is happens a lot, but in the past we've never had to implement something like this, because usually with our viruses we've had ways to contain them very quickly. But that's also a game of luck, like you're lucky if you contain a virus like SARS before it reaches the globe, the way this virus has. And unfortunately we missed our window of opportunity because it just was too difficult to contain. And so now it's kind of like, well, now Disney parks and our life has to be put on hold for a second for this to happen. So it's just really weird. And I know I know people are wondering, why Downtown Disney is still open. And parts of Downtown Disney will be open. So they're not going to have their little concerts and things, they're not going to do stuff like that. But the little shops and stuff, they'll stay open because under California guidelines for this coronavirus, they still fit under those guidelines. So supposedly a business with more than 250 guests in it is not allowed to stay open. So obviously a Starbucks wouldn't have 250 people in it. Jamba Juice wouldn't have 250 people in it. But also employment places that have more than 50 employees are also not allowed to stay open. So again, I don't think any of the businesses in Downtown Disney have more than 50 employees in each business. Maybe Splitsville, but I don't even think, not even Splitsville. So, so far, as far as I know, every place in Downtown Disney can still stay open. So it's just it's just really insane. And it was kind of like a day of bittersweet, emotion at Disneyland on Friday, and it was ironically rainy too. So it's just all this sadness paired with rain. But it was kind of a weird feeling because everyone in the park was having fun like they would on a normal day at Disneyland. But you could also tell that everyone knew the park was closing. It was no secret. There was nobody there that had no knowledge of the park closing. Some people were only there for the day. So they had this kind of mentality of, oh, well, I got my day at Disneyland. But I think people forget the gravity of the situation. So, it was just really strange. And I know there was things in the park that made you feel like things were different. In the bathrooms, they had signs over every sink that said, make sure to wash your hands for 20 seconds before drying them. That kind of thing. And I know for the past week or two, there have been reports about sanitizer stations all over the parks, outside the rides and inside the ride queues and all that. When I was there wasn't a single sanitizer station. Not one. Not even one. And I think it's because they ran out, honestly. So, it was really weird. And the parks were also minimally staffed. It was also possibly because of the rain too. Like Disney usually staffs less people during the rainy times because obviously there's less guests. But it was even to the point where I was sitting at the Plaza Inn for lunch, and all the tables around me, which were empty, all had trays and plates on them, like they hadn't been bussed for like hours. Which was just a weird thing because when I worked at Plaza Inns, like, or any of the restaurants at Disneyland, keeping those tables clear and clean was like number one. So seeing all those plates and dishes and stuff, I was just like, this is not normal,
Yeah.
Oh, I could go on and on, but I want to give you a break. You might have a question for me.
Well, yeah. Well, before we start, I want shout out to Chris White for the $1 donation. Thank you, Mr. Chris. We appreciate it. But yeah, like I said, it's a very, I don't know. It's crazy because Disneyland is only closed 3 times in its 60 plus years of operation. And those closures were only for 1 day each. Whereas here, the park is closed for 2.5 weeks, you guys. Try to comprehend that. Disneyland has been running pretty much nonstop for 60 plus years, with the exception of those 3 days that it closed due to outside circumstances. And here, it's closed for 2.5 weeks. It's really hard for me to wrap my mind around that. And even though the Disney in this statement said that there have been no confirmed cases of the virus at Disneyland Resort, they're still doing this to prevent, just out of caution, to prevent the further spread of the virus, because, theme parks like these are like the perfect place to spread viruses like this, just because of all the things people touch, how close you have to get to people, and like rides and then queues. It's really like, it's a perfect place to like spread a virus like this, but they still took the precaution. And people are sad, sure. I'm sad. I don't know if I'll be able to go to Disneyland in a month for my birthday. But it's fine. I'm fine with it because I'm glad Disney's taking the precautions to close the parks, even though, some people will be sad. I think they did the right thing by closing these parks. And it's crazy to me because just last week, I think we were talking about whether or not Disneyland and Walt Disney World would be closing. And I think it was last week. It could have been the week before. I would have predicted that Disneyland and Walt Disney World would not have closed at all due to this. That would have been my prediction. And I'm sure Alex and Jeremy, if you were here, would have said the same thing. And now here we are, just a week, 2 weeks later, and the parks are closed, you guys. It's hard for me to wrap my head around that. I think it's good to note that construction, I think, is still going to be, or like refurbishments are still going to be going on throughout the park. So Haunted Mansion refurb still going to be happening during the park closure. I think all the other refurbs, what's the other one? The Snow White refurb, I'm pretty sure that's still going to be going on during the closure.
So what I was telling people was that while the park is closed, all their refurbishments and stuff like that are going to go full force. Usually that's what Disney does during a closure, is it's only closed to guests. That's just for their safety. But there are workers there right now. I've even heard from people right now that the park is full of workers right now, gardening, painting, that kind of thing. So it's not empty. Like, Tony Mack in the comment section was saying that he thought it'd be eerie to see nobody in the park there today, but there are people there. And I was even telling people on Friday that, because a lot of people had that question, will Haunted Mansion refurb continue? Yes. The Haunted Mansion will probably be completely reopened by the time the park reopens, because now that they don't have to worry about stopping work during the day because of the guests, now they can work throughout the day.
Yeah.
So they can drive their construction vehicles all through the place without having to worry about guests seeing it, stuff like that. So that's one of the biggest reasons why construction projects take a long time at Disney parks, is because they can't drive around in the middle of the guests during the day. So again, now that the park is closed, they have the opportunity to veg out and spread and do what they need to do to refurbish the parks. And so we're probably going to come back to seeing a completely refreshed, park. Well, not completely refreshed, but I mean, what I mean? Refreshed.
New Tomorrowland will be done by the time the park opens, you guys.
Yeah. No, but I was saying that the entrance to Tomorrowland, the one where they're going to build the elliptical planters out front, we'll probably see those completed when the park opens.
And there's going to be no way of us for knowing, even if that construction is going to be starting, because no one's going to be there to document that kind of stuff. So when it's weird. I mean, cast members can
leaked. Yeah. There could be leaked photos from cast members, but
we're in the dark now, you guys, as to what construction progress is. Like Alex said, the new planters that are being installed or whatever, that stuff that we showed a few months ago. Yeah.
We might even find that when the park reopens, the Snow White attraction will be open as well. So like I said, this is a time for Disney to really accelerate their refurbishment projects, and they also have an incentive to do so. And the reason is because when the parks reopen, the tourism industry is still going to be pretty much at a standstill, and Disney is going to need to earn that money. Now, if you say, oh, Disneyland's open, but by the way, Snow White, Haunted Mansion, Matterhorn closed for refurbishment, people are going to be like, well, then I'm not going. So Disney's going to be like, okay, everything is open. Everything that we have is open. So now you can come explore and experience the park. So that's what's going to draw people, is having those refurbishment projects finished when the park is ready to reopen. So that's their incentive. Now, I'm not saying that Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway is going to be open in Toontown, but I am saying that, the repaint work that has closed certain rides is going to be finished, and small refurbishments like that will be done. So we'll come to a park that's fully operational in that sense.
Yeah, I guess it's good to... I'll go to chat. T-Will said, or you could do some helicopter pictures a la BioReconstruct. Guys, quick shout out. BioReconstruct on Twitter. Great photographer. He goes up in helicopters, I think in Walt Disney World as well as in Disneyland occasionally, and takes really amazing construction progress photos and just like general aerial photos of the park. So go ahead and follow BioReconstruct on Twitter. Great, amazing account. Shout out to him. He does a lot of great work for the community. I can't wait for the $18 water bottles and $40 chicken nuggets. It says T-Will again. That's funny.
That reminds me of another question that people have. A lot of people are wondering, half jokingly, is Disney going to lower their prices when they reopen for the park, all that?
Well, I guess it's worth it.
The short answer.
Sorry to interrupt. It's worth it to say that I did get an email, and there has been talks around of people I've seen who have annual passes that they're going to be extending the annual pass. I believe extending is the right word. Yes. I believe they're extending the annual pass for the days that the park is going to be closed. So, yeah, sorry to interrupt, but I feel like that was important to say in the context.
Yeah, Matt's right. I got an email, 2 emails from them, the same email, saying that my annual pass will be extended through the time that the park is closed. So if it's closed for 2 weeks, my pass will be extended 2 weeks. If it's closed for 2 months, it'll be extended 2 months, and such and such. But back to the question, will admission price be cheaper? Will food be cheaper? The short answer is no. But if you want the long answer, likely when the park reopens, the pricing for like the first week might be top tier pricing, because we're probably going to see like what we saw in Tokyo Disneyland, where when that reopened after the earthquake, the park got flooded with people. So we might see that. So it's possible that the first week the park might be full of people and they'll have to have high tier pricing. But maybe after that, because of the long-term effects of the tourism industry just being at a standstill, they'll probably lower their prices to the lower tier. it would be really a stretch for Disney to actually lower the lower tier pricing.
Yeah.
So that would just be a really big stretch. So probably you'll see the low tier pricing for a couple of months to even maybe the end of the year. We'll see. Maybe even long. We don't know. That's the weird thing. We don't know because this isn't just Disney parks. This is the world. The tourism industry across the world has come to a standstill. And that destroys economies. And when economies are affected like that, people have less spending money, and less spending money in return means less tourism. So, and that doesn't just fix itself overnight. It takes months to years. So this has affected the Disney parks for the long run. So we'll probably see like low tier pricing when the park reopens. And then we might even see like food prices at Disneyland might actually go down a little bit, just to encourage people to buy food and buy merchandise. Merchandise might not actually go down at all, because that's just merchandise. Food can always be cheaper, but merchandise cannot be cheaper.
Yeah. I think Alex, his webcam froze. He's just staring up into space right now. Alex, are you there? Can you hear me? Oh, goodness. Alex is frozen right now, you guys. Okay, well. Anyways, the stream is still going. Alex, you're frozen. Alex is frozen right now. And not the movie Frozen. Do you guys see this? He's just staring up there. He messaged me, he said he's talking. He said, Alex, your webcam is frozen. I can't hear you talk, but I can see your messages right now. My friend is laughing in the other room because he's frozen. Okay, Alex. I don't think it's my internet. Everything's still green. Everything's still going. He's staring up into space right now. Alex, if you can, leave the call and try and rejoin and see if that helps. Okay, Alex left the call. Awkward. Hello, Alex, you there? Hello? Pondering life. Yeah, the stream's going fine. Everyone can hear me. Alex's webcam is loading. I can't hear him if he's talking. Okay, Alex, I'm gonna need you to restart Discord, close out of it completely, and try and reopen it and see if that helps. Well. Okay, maybe I'll leave. I'll leave the call, and we'll see if that helps. Hello. Oh, there it is. Fixed it.
See, I told you it wasn't me.
That's so weird. That was so weird. No, like the stream was going fine. I guess it's just something with my Discord probably just crashed or something. But anyways, we're back. All right. That was really funny.
No, yeah, just tell everybody in the chat. Like my internet is fine. Like everything was going fine. It was him. Like he was not. Yeah.
Well, anyways, what were we talking about before you froze? I can't even remember. Welcome back, Alex.
I don't even remember.
We were talking about the tourism industry and how that might be ruined for the next. Oh, we were talking. I think the last thing you said was, food prices may go down, but merchandise pricings will not go down. That was the last thing I remember you saying. Well, I guess we can continue on this discussion. It is looking back on the rumor that we heard a few weeks ago, I think at this point, of the cancellation of a lot of the future projects that have been in the works for Disneyland. Mickey Minnie's Runaway Railway, or I guess cancellation is the wrong word, the postponement of those. Runaway Railway, New Tomorrowland, as well as the other big construction projects that were in the works have been, the rumor that we heard that they've been canceled due to the closure of the Chinese parks. That seems a lot more realistic now that Disneyland is closed, Walt Disney World is closed, And the revenue from those parks, there's going to be no revenue coming from those parks for the next at least for the US parks, for the next 2.5 weeks. And Disneyland, the Chinese parks have been closed for, I think, almost maybe a little less than a month at this point, maybe more. Can't recall off the top of my head. But
Well, I see. I don't agree with that assessment because people often forget that investments on rides, they're not the same way as like when you buy something at a grocery store. When you buy something, you're buying it out of money out of your own pocket. And Disney rarely does that. They use the money that they get from their shareholders to pay for those things. So, what's going to end up happening is Disney's going to want to bring people in after everything reopens. And true, the construction progress on those things might stop eventually, but they're not stopping right now because they still have money in the budget to continue doing what they're doing in the effort that maybe things will get better. But what's going to end up happening is if they do run out of money for that and they need more, well, they're going to have to complete those projects because they're going to want customers to come in. They're going to want guests to come in and enjoy the parks. And so the only way you're going to do that is to introduce something new. When it comes to theme parks, you have to make an investment to get a return. And so what they're going to end up doing is the shareholders are going to end up demanding that they create something new for people to come in. And so Disney's going to end up trying to sell more shares of Disney and in return use that money to pay for new attractions in their parks. So if anything, we might even see, the projects that are currently underway completed. And then once those are done, probably no new projects. So yeah, that's probably what's going to happen. So they're just going to finish Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway for Disneyland. Once that's completed, then, probably no more new projects for Disneyland, that kind of thing until the money gets, replenished. So, and the other thing too is that a lot of people, again, forget how much money Disney has. People say like, oh, Disney has like a ton of money. They can, they could, pay their cast members for months. And it's like, no, no, they don't have that much money. They make a lot of money. That's profit. But, they make a lot of money, which is like gross profit. But their profit margin for like the stuff they actually get to save and put in their little piggy bank is very small. And Iger in the past had been trying to increase that profit margin. That's why we saw like an inflation in the cost of prices for Disney parks and merchandise, because he knew that when things like this happen, the park is going to need that piggy bank to be emptied and they're going to need to use that money. But in the past, Disney didn't have that big a profit margin. They couldn't save enough money to help themselves during a crisis like this. So hopefully when he started doing that, almost 20 years ago, maybe they've saved up enough money to this point where they can actually handle this crisis really well. So all those people that complained about, the prices, maybe there was a good reason. Maybe because of that, because of how much money they've had to pay in the past, that we'll be able to open Disneyland again and have it running like normal. But yeah, so it's kind of like they're even then their newest profit margins are really small. So they pay their bills, but there's not much money left over in the till. So that's kind of how it works. But yeah. What?
Interesting. Well, I guess it's also worth pointing out we have no idea what's going to be happening with the Disney parks the next few months. I mean, Disneyland put out a statement that the park was going to be closed till the end of March. We don't know if things may get worse with this dumb old virus. If things get worse, the closure might extend until mid-April, maybe even the full month of April. maybe even after that into May. We honestly, there's no real way, I don't think, at least for people like us, of predicting, because, we're not experts. We don't work for the World Health Organization. There's no way of us for predicting whether or not this virus will calm down in the next few months, whether or not it'll get worse, whether or not that will affect the Disney parks as well. If they'll close, the closure will be extended. This is uncharted territory right now, really, for the entirety of the Disney company. And like we mentioned in News from the Peak, this is not just affecting the parks as well. It's affecting the box office as well, because Disney's delaying. Disney delayed, I think, Black Widow, and that's the only movie I can think of right off the top of my head. They're delaying a lot of the movies that were supposed to be released within the next few weeks, few months, pushing those back. New Mutants was delayed again. That's the only other one I can think of off the top of my head. But yeah, this is really uncharted territory for the entirety of the Disney company, and it's really not comparable, I think, right off the top of my head at least. I can't think of anything to any other incident that's happened in the past, because, things have been going well, I feel like, the past few months before this whole thing started. Galaxy's Edge opened. People seemed to like Galaxy's Edge. Rise of the Resistance opened. People, loved Rise. Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway opened. People love that. Things have been going well for the parks recently and for the box office as well. And now all of a sudden, all of that has just stopped. And it just, makes you think, what's going to happen to the Walt Disney Company if things do get worse, if the parks closures extend into April, if, production on the newest movies get delayed again, release dates of the newest movies get delayed again. It's just very, it's like I said, it's uncharted territory, you guys. I don't know what else to say about it.
Yeah, the thing about it is that so the governor said that places like Disneyland will have to be closed for the rest of the month, but he only said that because we don't know how long this closure will need to last. And if it clears up within a week, well, then you wouldn't want things to be closed for several months. You want them to reopen as soon as possible. So he made the statement of how long these things have to be closed for, just the rest of the month, but he'll probably end up extending it for as long as it needs to contain the virus. And so therefore Disneyland will probably need to stay closed as long as it needs to. So it's like, it's really hard to say that it's even going to open in 2 weeks. That's why I felt so adamant about getting to the park on Friday to see it one last time, because it was just like, I don't know, like worst case scenario, it's closed for the rest of the year. And let me tell you, like, I know, like, usually our live streams are really funny and happy and we make a lot of jokes, but this is one of those times where I'm not laughing because this is, again, the whole tourism industry, and it affects the economy of the world. We're looking at a global depression. That's not if, that's just like a matter of when. So, when the virus clears up, hopefully it clears up in a matter of weeks, I'm really hoping, and then things can get back to normal. But if it just stays longer, then we're definitely looking at a global depression. And so things like Disneyland will not be the same again. There was something I wanted to say about Disneyland. So there was a LA Times article. I don't know, Matt, did you see that?
I think I read it. Jeremy sent it to me. Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
So I wanted to read part of it, if that's okay, because I thought what it said was like really neat.
It's a really great article. A link will be in the description if you guys would like to read it.
Yeah, I can't find it on here.
I can.
Oh, here it is.
Okay.
Here it is. Okay, so let me open that. I just press the thing. Sorry, my camera's in the way, so I'm like looking around you guys. Okay. Okay, so all right, so I'm going to read like one paragraph. So, the walls of Disneyland's fairy tale castle, buoyantly pink and cheerfully blue, still at this very moment, have stood through multiple wars, civil rights movements, economic downturns, and nearly every societal trend, change, or tragedy. For whatever was happening in America, and regardless of the corporate directives of the Walt Disney Company, the pirates, the ghosts, and the inland birds, our island birds, still sing. It's taken for granted that Disneyland stays open, like a high-priced roadside attraction that stands as a symbol of the stability and the seemingly everlasting appeal of American pop art. Throughout its 6 decades, Disneyland has taken the pulse of American culture, be it the romance of Main Street USA and New Orleans Square, or the Western action of Frontierland and the intergalactic hopefulness of Space Mountain. Disneyland has proven so remarkably durable that it has been replicated and reimagined multiple times and in numerous spaces, spreading American ideals to not just Walt Disney World in Florida, but to parks in Tokyo, Paris, Hong Kong, and Shanghai. And yet, come Monday, following the closing of Disneyland Resort and earlier shutdowns in Asia, every single Disney theme park in the world is scheduled to be closed, and a global heartbeat that began in Anaheim will stop beating for the first time in our history. Vietnam, the AIDS crisis, the crash of 2008, and even the death of the park's founder, Walt Disney, could not stop Disneyland from humming. But today, the silence in Anaheim and beyond is sending a rather loud message. We are, at this moment, broken. So
Beautiful.
I found that article, just to be, it's a wonderful read. The whole article is amazing. It's just an ode to Disneyland and what it means to us. So it's just like, it's really sad because I see Disneyland as a source of hope. And that's exactly what Walt Disney wanted. It's even in his opening day speech. But when everything in the world is going wrong, I know that like I can go to Disneyland and everything feels like it'll be okay. So with Disneyland closed in the midst of this crisis, even my world feels upside down. Like, a lot of my friends who own businesses say that their businesses are empty right now because people are too afraid to go in. And I tried to go grocery shopping yesterday so I can celebrate my sister's birthday today. And the grocery store, all the aisles were empty. There was no groceries to buy, like nothing. And it was just like really apocalyptic.
Yeah.
And it was just really weird. And so all I could think of was, I want to get away from this, but I don't have my happy place open. So it's like, with Disneyland closed, it gives us a sense of uneasiness and uncertainty, and so as long as Disneyland is open, it makes us feel like everything will be all right. But with it closed, it makes us feel very uncertain and very unsure. And that's how I felt on Friday, being there on the last day. And it was like, I was happy to be there, but it was really a very uneasy feeling of knowing that I don't know when I'm coming back. I stayed away from Disneyland the last couple of weeks to avoid getting sick, but I always had the option to come back if I wanted to. But with it being closed, it's not up to me. It's up to the virus. And whether or not you believe if the virus is really all that important, which I think the death of people is important. So either way, I think that it's caused Disneyland to close, which has changed a lot of us Disney fans, and it's caused a lot of our worlds to come to a halt. So I guess, I want to relay the message that Disneyland will reopen. It's only a matter of when. And when it does, it'll be there for all of us. And even for those of us who can't make it out to California to visit it and feel okay again, all your favorite YouTubers, all those people will go back, film again, and bring to you on YouTube the place that you love most, that makes you feel happy, even in your darkest time. And I myself am really looking forward to going back and filming the day it reopens. Even if I'm supposed to work that day, I'm going to make plans to go to Disneyland. So it's one of those things where, it will bring normality back to my life when it happened.
Well, very beautiful. Well said from Mr. Alex, the historian here. Yeah. Disneyland, like Alex said, everything will go back to normal eventually. We don't know when. But yeah, I almost shed a tear when Alex was talking just then. Holy cow. But anyways, yeah, I think that'd be a good place to wrap up the episode, but I do want to sort of just bring up one last little tiny bit to this whole conversation. What an interesting time for Mr. Bob Chapek to be the new CEO of Disney. All the parks closed. Movie releases are delayed. Production put on hold for all of these live-action movies. I mean, we give Chapek, however you say his name, we give Chapek a lot of heat on our episode. But you gotta sympathize with him right now. I'm sure he's very stressed out. He's going through a tough time, just like we all are. He is put into this position, new CEO, right in the midst of this horrible global crisis that's happening right now. And it's just very, we can't bash on Chapek right now because I'm sure he's trying to do his best to close the parks. Yeah, again, it's just very interesting that he's put into this position right away, right off the bat. The China parks were closed, and now he has to close Disneyland, Walt Disney World, everything put on hold. But he has a hell of an opportunity to prove himself, said Redmond. That's true. This is a very good opportunity for him to prove how good he's going to be at his job going forward, what decisions he makes in the coming weeks, in the coming months. But I do think that is a good ending point for today's episode. So yeah, thank you all for coming to today's episode. You all know the drill. Links to everything will be down in the description below. Links to Alex's channel will be down in the description below. Twitter's, everything. You guys know the drill. Patreon, all that jazz.
And also, I filmed a lot of footage at Disneyland on Friday, so on my channel, at least for the next 2 weeks, there will be content that will remind you of Disneyland. So that'll be there for you.
Link in the description again, like I said, to Alex's channel. And yeah, I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts on all of the topics we discussed today, whether it be Disney College program shutting down, Disneyland, Walt Disney World, Disneyland Paris, and the cruise line closing as well as the shutdown of all the production of the live-action films that have been in production. And are you guys going to watch Frozen 2 this weekend? Frozen 2 this week with all these quarantines going on? Let us know in the comments down below. And go ahead.
May I just say, after, taking a big risk with Disney Plus, doesn't Iger look like a genius for creating Disney Plus now?
Exactly.
I mean, it's the one thing carrying the whole company at this very moment.
That's literally
the one part of the business.
The truth, yeah. Guys, go subscribe to Disney Plus if you haven't already. Help the company because there's going to be a lot of lost revenue. The parks closed, the movies delayed. Again, yeah, Disney Plus is one of the only things that is going to be pumping money into the company for the foreseeable future. But anyways, it's a good time to leave off. Jared West said, sorry I'm late. Jared, I'm sorry you joined right as we're leaving. But again, sound off in the comments down below your thoughts on everything we talked about. And on that note, it's time to end this show, everybody. Thank you all for coming out to today's episode. And as always, have a great, big, beautiful tomorrow.